Oregon found their matchup advantages early and often in a big win over Illinois on Saturday as the bar continues to be raised in Eugene.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I talked about it in my preview, and it rang true on Saturday afternoon. It was all about a hot start for the Oregon Ducks and isolating those matchups on the perimeter. 1 + 1 = W for the Oregon Ducks. Because when Oregon was able to get that lead in this game, that really puts Illinois in a tough spot, and it's very difficult at that point to create more shortcuts. That's what I said in my preview. You can't play this game even. You can't play this game without taking shortcuts against Oregon and expect to go toe-to-toe with them throughout the course of a 60-minute game. You can't play a track meet. If there's any school in America that you can't play a track meet against, it is the track and field blue blood that is the Oregon Ducks. It is the team that resides in Tracktown, USA. Illinois got in the exact situation that they wanted to avoid in this game, but Oregon just did very Oregon things, and this was one of the expected results that we were possibly expecting to happen at Autzen Stadium in Eugene on Saturday. And this is the result that is going to happen not only for Illinois, but other teams on Oregon's schedule if you can't touch Dillon Gabriel. This offensive line, since they figured it all out early in the season, this offensive line has become an integral part to the great success of the Oregon offense. And Illinois, I said it in the preview, Gabe Akes needed to be the disruptor. And he was not the disruptor, safe to say, in this game against Oregon. When Dillon Gabriel is able to sit and go through his progressions with a lot of time in the pocket, that's when you are going to create those downfield explosive plays that we saw from the Oregon Ducks in this football game. I want to give credit to Illinois for certainly not quitting in the second half. This is a spot, I think, where you learn a lot about your football team. When you're getting blown out, right, when a team can really check out mentally and, hey, let's just stay healthy, let's get to the next week, let's get to the next game. This is a team that went down, they scored, they got an interception on Dillon Gabriel. They came up with some positive plays in the second half to possibly carry over to next week. So you like to see that, and look, I certainly don't expect a Brett Bielema football team to quit, so that's as expected. All right, let's get into some of my takeaways because, man, I could talk and sit here and I could talk about, Oregon was dominant this way and they were dominant in that way, but I want to really focus in on a couple of things on the dominant performance of the Oregon Ducks over the Illinois Fighting Illini on Saturday afternoon. Let's talk about Noah Whittington. That was a guy in the beginning of the season, coming off of an injury last year, that he wasn't really gelling and fitting into the system great in the first couple of games of the season. What do we know about Whittington? Of course, he was really good a couple of years back, splitting time and splitting carries with Bucky Irving. That was Bo Nix's first year on campus at Oregon. Last year, of course, the injury. And then this year, you have Jordan James as the number one back. Of course, they're looking for Noah Whittington to step up into that 1B or number 2 role at Oregon. And he just had a tough time really finding his footing, really finding his role within this Oregon offense. And then Jordan James was clearly the bell cow. And he clearly is still the number one back in this offense. But the way Noah Whittington, I think, has played the last couple of weeks installs more confidence in me that more depth can be achieved in this running back room for the Oregon Ducks. And thus, Jordan James will continue to remain fresh throughout this game. You don't want to wear down Jordan in this running game too early in the season. Now, the way Oregon throws the ball, right, you do achieve some of that freshness just by having good balance on the offensive side of the football, but you want to keep Jordan available to be able to be that big game-changing guy, that big-time running back, especially late in the season, and the depth in the running back room can achieve that, and Noah Whittington stepping into a bigger role can also achieve that. I think him being a pass-catching option has really helped out into him finding the role in the Will Stein offense. Now, I think he only caught like 2 balls in this game. Now, he had 2 touchdowns. I think one of them was that short little shovel for a touchdown in the receiving game. But him being a pass-catching option and moving him to different parts of the formation and moving him and really putting his skill set on display in different parts of the offense, I think has certainly helped this Oregon offense the last couple of weeks. He caught that touchdown against Purdue last week when he was kind of lined up in a different spot on this offense. Whittington, 7 carries, 56 yards and a touchdown. That's 8 yards a pop, right? That's what you want to see from Noah Whittington. I think maybe it's taking him a little bit. But here in the middle of the season, Noah Whittington appears to be in mid-season form in that running back room. And now when Whittington kind of gets involved in the offense in a little bit of a different way, then you start to see Jaden Lamar really step into his role. He's really starting to form his role also in this running back room. To me, it seems like a 2A and a 2B with Whittington and Jaden Lamar back there. Lamar had 7 carries in this game. James had 15, Whittington had 7, and Lamar had 7. And this was a rushing attack that obviously did very good in this football game. I think that's the type of diversity that you want in the run game to be able to keep Jordan James fresh for these games where they really need him and they really need to depend on him and really need to lean into the run game a little bit later on in the season. So I really like what Will Stein and this offense has done with Noah Whittington. And this game was another example of that. Boy, this is the perfect formula on defense. This was an example in this game of a perfect formula for the Oregon Ducks. It's the Big Ten Conference, so it all starts with owning the line of scrimmage. When you have guys like Derek Harmon and Jamari Caldwell, man, those guys have been 2 huge transfer additions for this offense. You rotate in the Amari Washingtons of the world as well. Illinois had a tough time running the football early in this game. So then what needs to happen? Luke Altmaier, Barry Lunny Jr., and this Illini offense need to go to the air. That's when this lockdown secondary really comes into play. Now, we all know about Jabbar Muhammad. We saw him play last year at Washington. We've seen him play this year at Oregon, and of course, he's been really good. That should be no surprise to anybody. But I think what's really impressed me, and he really impressed me in this game, is Nico Reed. Going back a couple of weeks, Nico Reed played really well as at CB2 against Ohio State. That was a question that I brought up in my Ohio State preview. Hey, you got Ibuka, you got Smith. Okay, whoever won, whatever one that Muhammad is not on, how's Nico Reed going to do at that CB2 spot? He performed admirably in that game, in that big win against the Buckeyes, and he performed really well in this game as well. They really have 2 lockdown corners on either side, and they got a lot of talent. And they got a lot of depth in the secondary. When the D-line, this is the perfect defensive formula that we talk about. When the D-line does what they can do and did what they did in this game against Illinois, right, that forces teams to be able to throw the football a little bit more than they want to. Of course, being behind forces Illinois throwing the football maybe a little bit more than they wanted to in this game. But when you have a secondary like Oregon has, and they have improved tremendously from last year, it makes this formula all come together, and it's a great mixture on the defensive side of the ball. Nico Reed had 3 passes defended in this game that led Oregon. He also had a great tackle for loss, and that's the TFL that really impressed me. He did a really good job shedding blocks and coming to the line of scrimmage as well, so he can play in multiple facets on this Oregon defense as well. Dante Manning had 5 tackles and 2 passes defended. There's a lot of depth in this Oregon secondary, folks. There is. So it creates this formula when you get the back end, when you get the front end. And boy, that linebacker group is playing really good as well for the Oregon Ducks, right? We know about Bryce Betcher, and Devin Jackson has been really good as well. And then you got Bassa, and then you got Jacobs, and then you got all of these guys. Beginning of the season, I said, hey, I think we need to talk about putting Oregon into that top tier, possibly in that top tier of Big Ten defenses. Some people threw some snarky comments at me, but I think now as this season continues to go by and a game like this against Illinois, it's becoming very clear that this Ducks defense is indeed a championship level unit, is indeed one of the best, not only in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. Now, look at how this Oregon team started this game. Look at how this Oregon offense started on absolute fire, scoring touchdowns on 5 of their 6 touchdown drives. Now, you do that against maybe Purdue last week. Well, that's to be expected. That's a bad team. But you do it against a defense like Illinois. I've talked about it on this show. I've talked about it on my weekly segments on Locked On Illini. I've talked about it in other places. This is an improved Illini defense. Aaron Henry has done a good job with this Illini defense. So being able to perform the way you did against that unit continues to raise the bar. It continues to raise the standard for the Oregon Ducks right now. They need to continue to outperform themselves every week. I remember watching a documentary about the Miami Hurricanes in the late 1990s and the early 2010s. They said, we had that mentality. We knew we were going to go out and win. We were challenging ourselves week by week how much we were going to be able to win by. Can we top what we did the week before? I think when you look at Oregon's schedule, they are obviously firmly better than anybody else remaining on their schedule. To be able to prepare themselves for a Big Ten championship game, to prepare themselves for a playoff run in this first edition of the 12-team college football playoff, they needed to continue to raise the standard. They need to continue to raise the bar. I think that this performance against Illinois continued to raise the bar for this Oregon Ducks program. Eyes have to remain on the prize while also being focused on the present. Certainly an impressive performance by the Oregon Ducks on Saturday afternoon. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Leave all your thoughts, Oregon and Illinois, in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.